I'm going to use a colouring book to make appliques today. So this is one of my toddler's books. It's kind of been used in places. But the reason I like this book is that the pictures are quite large and it's easy to see what the different shapes are. So for example, if I was to take this flamingo page, I could take just this bird here and make an applique out of here, and each section is very clearly defined. So you just want to grab a colouring book that looks very similar and just kind of work your way through, choose something that you like the look of. And I will be replicating this at the same size it is in the colouring book, just for ease on this particular one. But what you could do is you could trace it, scan it into a computer and scale it down and then print it out to make a smaller version or a bigger version. So I think I am going to choose the flamingo. I'm going to choose this one here. And so what I'm going to do is grab my fusible web and I'm going to place it over the top. And you can use any fusible web. The one I happen to have is Steamer Seam 2, the light version. So I'm just going to use a pencil. You can use whatever you like. All right, so with this, I'm just going to trace all of the pieces all in one go. And then if I decide afterwards when I'm cutting out that I want to add extra seam allowance, I can do. So I'm just going to trace the whole thing, apart from the eye, because that little eye there is just like a little V-U shape type thing. And obviously I can't make a piece like that. I'm going to add that in with stitches afterwards. But I can trace all of these other lines that are all going to be actual pieces. And if you see some bits and you're like, you know what, I don't want that much detail, you can leave them off. So for example, I could have had the top and bottom piece of the beak be the same. Yeah, so it's kind of depends on what you want. So like each of these feathery bits are all going to be a separate piece. This leg is going to be a different piece, but I'm not going to have different sections where the lines on the legs are. You see how there's lines on the legs? We could have those as separate sections if we wanted to, but I'm not going to do that. So I'm going to kind of roughly cut out the shape where I can. If it's next to another piece, I have to cut along the line. And then I'm going to decide what I want in what colour. And also don't forget that this is going to be mirrored as well. So if this is the side here that's been fused to your the back of your fabric, it's going to reverse the image. And I might simplify these feathers a bit actually as well. So I'm sort of sorting these by colours. So the very tips of the beaks are going to be black. And this is the rest of the beak. So I'm going to put the two tips together. And I have like the legs pieces together. They're all going to be the same shade. And if I'm not sure, I'm going to just check on my phone and see what colour the flamingos should be before I decide exactly what colours I'm fusing together. So I've grabbed a bunch of scraps of out of my drawer. I've got a few different pinks. I'm going to use grey for the legs and for most of the beak. The ends of the beak are going to be black, and then because I'm doing like the American flamingo, its body is going to be this red colour. So I'm going to start with these. I'm going to peel the backing fabric off first. Some webs don't have backing, like Wonder Under and stuff like that. So you might not have this. That will kind of stick down a bit on mine. It's got like a repositionable temporary adhesive type stuff. And then we're just going to fuse that down to the back of the fabric. We just do that by pressing and holding. This is a very old wool mat, as you can see. Actually, I'm getting dirt out my iron as well. So this is like my applique mat. I'm not going to be precious about it if it gets, you know, anything on it. And it's good practice to press from both sides, just to make sure that that glue is nicely adhered. And we're not going to take our paper off or anything yet. I am just going to kind of snip off that fabric so I can put that back in my scrap drawer and then move on to the next piece. And then these, I kind of wanted to have a mix of different fabrics. So I'm actually going to do one in each scrap that I have. And I can plan this out. I can see, you know, this work my way to the end. So I can just kind of figure out which goes where because I changed my picture a little bit. So that goes 1, 2, oh, backing's come off already. That's kind of handy. 3, and then this will be the tail bit 4. So I think I'm going to have the darker bit at the end and the lighter bit closer to the face. So if I get my scraps, I can kind of try out the different arrangements I want. I'll just quickly press that. I think technically that one's darker because of the little red dots. And then this one's going to be the lightest one. So I can audition what I want, and then I can go ahead and add those to the fabric. All right, so now I have all of my fabric pieces. I'm now going to kind of decide which way around they're going to go. I also, because by that what I mean is what order I'm going to put them down in, and that will determine how close I cut along the, whether I cut along the lines or not. Just because I like to have, if I get this picture back, I like to have a little bit of overlap so that you're not sticking right up to the edge and risking kind of a gap there. It only has to be a tiny amount, like 1/8 of an inch or even less, depending on the design and how small it is. But we do need to also start with our background fabric. So that's where I'm going to start. I'm actually going to choose yellow as my background fabric just because I think it'll have good contrast with the pink, the red, and also the grey and black. And I'm going to worry about my finished block size after I've done this. But I'm just going to quickly measure this fabric, and I would have enough to make a 12-inch block if I wanted to from the width of this piece. And this is just a ombre as well, so I'm going to arrange it so I have the darkest at the top and the lightest at the bottom. I think, no, let's switch it up. Let's make it more like a landscape kind of image where you would have the darkest at the top and then the lightest towards the horizon. I think that's right. Yeah. Let's do it this way around like I have it. So when I look at the picture in the book again, it would be very small in there. This will not be a 12-inch block. So I'm kind of going to start here just because I don't want that much of the darker yellow. And that's just a personal choice rather than a thing that you have to do. It's just with this particular piece of fabric that I have, I kind of want this middle color first. So I'm probably going to start with the body, and because I'm starting with the main body, and the reason I'm starting with the main body is to reduce distortion, but because of that I'm likely going to want, looking at my picture again, to have a little bit of overlap underneath the wing. And also at where these legs are. Keep my picture nearby for reference, and I'm going to cut out my fabric. I'm going to try and leave a tiny little bit there, and I know this is cutting the fabric twice. We could have not cut so close to the line, but yeah, the other thing is actually attaching this leg here. I probably should have left a little bit of fabric there as well. So basically, like anywhere where you've drawn and you've cut the paper already, it's probably where you should have a little bit of a seam allowance. And I've kind of messed up a little bit there because I didn't do that. I'm going to try and put one in now because I haven't finished fully cutting that. And anywhere where you can see the line and you need to cut across the paper, you're probably safe to just do that because that's the edge of the piece. So again, this is where that wing is happening. So I'm going to leave a little bit of fabric there to join the others onto. And now we're back onto the paper. I'm going to follow that line. And then with the beakers again as well, I'm going to leave a little bit there. So I know where that's going to be because my line has already been cut there. So I'm going to add a little bit extra there. And it doesn't have to go all the way to the end. It's just like a little security blanket type situation. So once I've finished cutting this piece out, I'm going to remove the backing. And then I'm going to position it on my background. We can put it against our picture and make sure we're happy with it. So that bit goes off here. This is probably a bit much of an overhang here, so I'm going to cut a bit of this off and just see how I feel about that. And a smaller pair of scissors would come in handy here, but I'm too lazy to switch. Okay, so now we have that. I'll peel off my backing. And then this is going to go down on my background. And because it's on a bias, you can kind of stretch it out of place if you're not careful. I also want to make sure that it is straight. So I think I need to just arrange it a little bit more. Because this is repositionable, it is slightly tacky, this particular product. So I could lift it off and move it. If you're using other products as well, you won't need to even lift it off because it'll just be kind of floating around until you're ready to fuse. So that's that piece. And now I'm going to start building this wing. So I'm going to start with this piece here, which was this lighter one. Once again, I'm going to leave some surplus fabric where the next piece is going to join. And then I'm going to cut along this line. And then where it's joining, you know how you see here where I have it cut here? I don't need to do that because I know I have the excess here. It's just this piece where I'm going to have a piece connecting onto it, which is going to matter. And because it's a mirror image, it's going to be going this way. So it will be like this. The other thing I could do is just build the wing separately and then put all 4 of these pieces together first and then attach it to the body. That is an option as well. So once again, I actually only need to have one edge that's got the surplus on this one, and that's going to be the edge that the next piece attaches to. So that is this edge here. I'm just going to kind of keep reminding myself because it's a mirror image, things can go wrong. So I can cut that flush. This is the one where I can have the excess around there. I'm going to cut across there, and I'm probably going to regret not having smaller scissors on me right now, but this is where I'm going to make those cuts and place that one over the top. Like that. So I'm just going to keep on working, and then I'm going to show you what that looks like once all of these pieces are on here. So this is a closer look of what this looks like now built out based on this drawing here. So what I could have also done is simplified this a bit. If I knew that I was going to cut this and this from the same fabric, I could have just drawn the line here and then made this all one piece. I ended up making it out of 2 pieces, but still using the same fabric, which could have been avoided. Same with things like the beak, both the front end and the back end of the beak. Also, because this here is the same leg going across, this could have all been drawn as one piece, and then I could have drawn on another leg separately rather than drawing it all in one go on the paper. So that looks like this. In the end, what I did was I did have a little bit of extra on both of these, and I put this leg together first, and then I just put this one over the top. So now I have the layout how I want it. I'm just going to get my pressing sheet and put it over the top, and then I'm going to just press it down, and then I can embroider or at least kind of stitch around these edges to keep everything together, and I can add in the eye detail and then like the little line on the beak. So this is the Applique mat. It just means that you can protect your plate of your iron from any stickiness that might happen from pressing your appliques to the fabric. Another good thing about this is it's quite heavy, and it's quite and it's also kind of sticky-ish. Well, not sticky, but kind of rubbery. So nothing's going to move underneath here when you're pressing. I have previously used baking sheets, actually, silicone baking sheets for this purpose. And they do work pretty well, and they're also cheaper. But they do wear out after a while because they sometimes does get a bit of stickiness on the sheet itself, and they are a bit more tough to clean. You can clean them still, and they get kind of crinkly and untidy looking, but there's nothing wrong with them. They do still work, but I thought I would just try this out since I just came across it. So I'm just giving everything a really good press, and then when I'm happy with the front, like we did when we were making the applique pieces, I'm going to flip it over and press the back. And here it is. This is what an applique based on a colouring book looks like. I haven't stitched it yet, but I have added an erasable marker pen to mark where I want to put the eye and beak. And actually I'm going to put some details down here as well on the legs and for the water. So I think you still get a good effect of what that will look like, and of course it's reversed. But yeah, so enjoy looking through colouring books that you come across. Here's some other ideas that I think would work well. I've got like a Miss Rachel colouring book. There's quite some simple shapes and stuff in here. The characters are going to be a bit harder to do, but the animals and things are good in there. I've got some licensed ones as well, and you could use these to make quilts for toddlers, young children, that kind of thing. But yeah, they are copyrighted images, so you can only use them for personal use.